Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make some Disney ears. So hopefully you all know what I mean when I say Disney ears. I mean these little things. I am a crafter, I am a Disney nerd, and therefore I always make ears to match my outfits for my trips. So I thought, what is a better thing to do? And show you all how to do it if you want to do that yourself. Now, just to put this out there right at the beginning, I do not sell these. I make them for me and for Ace when we go on our trips. I also make them for friends and family when they're going on their trips. This is fun. This is a hobby. Saying that, this is a few pairs that I made for one of my oldest friends. So here we go. So these ones are Little Mermaid ears. Also, we've got some Tinkerbell. And then finally, these lovely peach coloured ones, I've got Mickey and Minnie. I thought I would show you some that are done, just in case it doesn't go well. However, these are no sew ears, so it is purely done with my trusty glue gun. Let's get cracking. First thing, you can find this template online all over. It gives you a fabric template and this one says foam, but either way, for me it's cardboard. But you can find these online, and at some point when I first started, I made myself little cardboard templates. Bigger one for fabric, smaller one for the actual ear itself. So we start by making the ears themselves. Now, I tend to just use cardboard, shoebox, anything like that I've got hanging around, Amazon usually. But literally, once you've got these and cut them out, make a template on cardboard if you're going to make multiple pairs. It's a lot easier than using paper every time. Nice and simple. Take your template and draw around it. Now you're going to need 4 of these to make one set of ears. So draw around the 4, chop them out. And there we go. 4 equal ear shapes. The next thing to do is to decide what fabric you want on your ear coverings. Fabric, you can use anything that you want. I quite like sequin fabric just because it gives that shine to the ears. I get a lot of the Disney themed fabric from places like charity shops, from eBay. You don't have to spend loads of money to do this. So this is the fabric that I am using for the ear coverings today. Woohoo, nice and shiny. So what you do on here, you just then take your fabric template, which is slightly bigger than your ear template, pop it on there and draw around it. Now I do have tailor's chalk to do this, but you can use whatever you like as long as it doesn't show through. So a pencil will do the job depending on the type of material that you've got. But I do have tailor's chalk just hanging around because clearly I'm odd. And again, you need 4 of these. And then you just need to cut those out. Now what I will say, something that I've learnt as I've been doing this, is the best thing to do is not cut directly on the lines when you're cutting them out, and just give yourself a little bit of a gap. So scissors will do perfectly well, but I do have a much quicker slicer. And chop each bit on it. The only thing with sequins, as you can see, the little bits get everywhere while we're hoovering up after I've made them. But as I say, with these, cut them out and give yourself a little bit of edging is what I've found. I probably should just make a bigger template, really. That would solve the problem, wouldn't it? It gives you the ability to have a bit of flexibility once you are sticking everything together. Now with the bottom, you need a flap. So when you've cut it out, your little curve that's there, that you've drawn around, you need to leave a flap. So I will show you, hopefully, if you can see where I've drawn around it, and you can see then that there's a bit underneath, and you will see what that's for shortly. So we'll cut out the 4, and I've just switched on my glue gun, so that's heating nicely. This little fabric cutter is one of the best things I've ever bought, and I got it from Amazon, and it was about £6, something like that. I would like to say I am not an expert in this. I do not profess to be an expert. However, I found a video on YouTube a number of years ago, and I've been doing it quite a bit since then, and I've just kind of changed things up and perfected it. So I'm giving you my hints and tips. Okay, so we have 4 shiny little ear coverings. Ooh. Next thing to do is we're going to glue these onto here. The best way to do it is to take your outside ear, the outside ear, is to take the cardboard ear and put that on that curved edge at the bottom. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the glue gun and we're going to do it bit by bit and stick that on as we go around, which you will see. We will put the glue on and then we will fold it over. And the reason I've left a bit of a gap around where I've drawn is just because of the size of these sequins. So they won't fold as easy as plain fabric will. So if you've got plain fabric, you can get closer to that line and you'll be good. Okay, here goes. So a little bit at a time. Fold over and stick. And what I would say, as you're doing this, don't pull it completely tight because you're going to pad these out a little bit. So you need a little bit of give in there in order to be able to do that. And you want to do the same thing all around your ear. Try and make it as flat as possible on the back. So I do spread the glue out sometimes. It is more difficult with sequins, but you need to stick 2 of these together, which is why we need to try and do that. We'll get to that, see how that works shortly. Do be careful when you're doing this. I have on many occasions glued my fingers. And let me tell you, it's not pleasant with a glue gun. It's quite hot. Okay. Now we've got 1. So you can see it's got the little dangly flap that we mentioned. And you do the same thing with the other 3. Cue some little twiddly music while I do this. Okay, there we have it. 4 shiny ears. However, these are flat and we don't want them flat. We want them to be a little bit poofy, have a bit of life to them. So what we need to do is just stuff them a little bit. Remember that I said to leave a bit of gap, not pull it too tight when you're doing the fabric. And this is so we can get inside and put a bit of fluff in there. Now I have a bag of fluff. You can buy stuffing. You can buy stuffing for things like teddy bears and general crafting. However, now don't come at me for this. I had a very large cuddly horse in the house that one of my nephews once won at a church fair when he was little. He's 16 now. This horse has not been looked at by anybody in years. So I have sliced it open. and throughout the years as I've been making ears, I have been slowly unstuffing this giant horse. that currently lives under my bed. So I will have stuffing for a while. Not advocating for performing surgery on fluffy toys, but you know, if it works, why not? Then what we do, take it a little bit at a time, stuff your ear. Now, you can make this as padded or as not padded as you prefer. It's all each to their own, but like I say, use a little bit at a time and make it even as you go. Bear in mind that you're putting 2 of these to stick together, so you don't want it too full, otherwise your whole ear will be quite fat. Once it is filled to how you want it to be, and it's not lumpy or anything like that, then what we want to do is just glue up that little flappy bottom section. So we just take the glue gun, a strip of glue across the bottom there. Up comes that flappy bit. Now you can see why we left that as it was. Stick that down. But as you can see now, starting to take shape. A shiny ear. I love how shiny this is. It's fabulous. And then on to the next ones. And then what we do, once we've done that, take your scissors, snip off this extra bit that is not glued down. And there you should have 4 half ears. What we now need to do is make those 4 half ears into 2 full ears. It's nice and simple. Take 2, we're going to glue them together as they are. There is no science to this bit. I would say my advice would be use your glue gun all around the edge so you can make sure they're stuck nicely at the edge. And then as far as the middle goes, just let loose. Don't put too much on, but you want enough so everything's going to stick together. And then line them up and squeeze. One. Almost done here. Same again with the second one. A pair. Woohoo! We're getting there now. Now once we've got our 2 ears, because we've made them as 2 halves, what we need is something to go around that seam. From the ones I showed you earlier, you can see I really kind of like a rope effect. So you can get this, I got this at the range. You can get a number of different colours, but you can use all kinds of things. I've used beads on there, I've used ribbon, all sorts of different stuff. You choose whatever works for you, whatever looks nice as far as your design goes, but just something that's going to cover up that seam. However, with that being said, I do not have red rope. And let me point out, I have so much of this stuff. And again, this stuff can just be picked up really cheaply from fabric shops, from places like The Range, like Hobbycraft, or again, on eBay, if you're looking for something quite specific. I'm going to put a black trim on these for reasons which will be clear hopefully soon. And I have this, it's kind of like a shiny black thread. We're going to measure it around the middle there, cut off a little bit extra in length, make 2 of those for both of those ears. And this is where you need to be careful and protect your fingers, because it's a little bit, this is the most fiddliest thing, really. So what we're doing is along that gap is, and again, we'll do this a bit at a time. Use your glue gun, a little bit in, down that little middle seam, and use whatever edging you're doing and pop that right in there, in that seam. And then you just work that around until you've done the whole ear. You can see, hopefully, that black line now that's down that seam. Had some slight technical difficulties then. If I look like I've moved, that is why. Trim the ends, and there we have 2 ears fully trimmed. Now, if you weren't wanting a bow, this is where you would finish and you would be putting it on your headband. However, I do want a bow, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, this is not the bow I'm going to be doing. This is one I made earlier. However, they look a lot more complex than they actually are. Decide on your fabric for your bow, however that fits in with the theme. Now, once you see the fabric for my bow, I think you're going to definitely guess what the theme of these ears are, if you haven't already. Did you notice this sitting next to me the whole time? Hopefully the design on this doesn't distort the camera. Now, to make your bow, what you need is not this much. This is just how much it came on eBay when I bought it. Again, eBay. Woohoo! Cut out approximately 10 by 8 inches as a rectangle. I use my cutting mat and I just kind of cut along the rectangle there. I'm not very good at this bit, so don't judge me. And then once you've done that, what you want is another small strip that is around 1 inch wide. First thing we're going to do is take this little strip and we're going to fold it in on itself from both sides so it makes a much thinner strip. Now, it doesn't really matter if this is not 100% precise, but it'll be about that thickness. Now, for the bow itself, what we want to be doing first of all is folding in the sides so they meet equally in the middle. So now your fabric is a long, thin rectangle. So then what we do is we fold the sides in to the middle also and glue that down. And then just because it's a little bit flappy, use a little tiny bit of glue to just make sure you don't have any of those little gaps here. And then what you have is a tiny rectangle, much thicker but smaller than the one you started with. And then what we need to do to turn it into a bow is to do it like a fan. Now, this is something we used to do as children with paper all of the time. You fold it, flip it and fold it, and then do this. Now, by my workings, this should, to have it right, you want 5, and then when you've pinched it like that, you need to glue it in place. So you can see the starting of a bow. And then you take your glue gun and glue within those folds. Now this is one of the places where I burn myself most often. And give that a few minutes to dry and hopefully not stick to your fingers. There is your bow. What we need then is this little middle bit. And what we will be doing is wrapping that around the centre of your bow to make that middle section. Glue the bottom as you're wrapping it around. Let that dry a little bit. And then you snip off your tail. Being careful not to cut anything else on your bow, because that I've done before, annoyingly. And there you have a bow. And now you have all your pieces. 2 ears, 1 bow, and we need to put those on the headband. I've chosen a red headband. These headbands are from Amazon. You can get them in a set. I've just recently got a set of 22 new ones, all different colours, and I think it was $7.99, something like that. They're not expensive. You can get all black ones, you can get sets of all black ones, all white ones, whatever you're wanting. I usually get just a multicoloured set, loads of different colours, and then I can do whatever I want. Set this down on your table. In order to make sure it's straight, I will usually put the ends of the headband at the end of the table. And then I will put the ears on each side. It's a bit long there. And then I will put the ears on the sides where I want them to be, first of all. And then we get them glued on. Glue gun, ear. All the way around that curve at the bottom. A good amount of glue you want here, because you want to make sure this ear does not fall off the headband. And they take a lot of punishment at the parks when they're being worn on rides and all that kind of stuff. So stick it where it needs to be, hold it on there until that glue starts to dry. You don't want to move on to the second ear attachment while this one is not sturdy. Once you're confident that's not going to fall off, onto the second. So if you're not doing the bow, this is the bit that you would skip to after you finish making the ears. So it only takes a few minutes. They're nice and sturdy, ready to put the bow on. And you want to put it in the middle of your headband. If it's quite flat like this one, towards the front, sometimes they'll go further back, depending. It all depends on the bow itself, the fabric it's made from. But when you're putting it on, get it sorted in the position that you want it to be first before you do anything with any glue. Put your big blob of glue on your headband, and then set down your bow where it needs to go. Hopefully you can tell what theme I've gone for. Lightning McQueen! Now while that's setting, I do have something else to go on it. I don't do this on all ears, but I do have bits to go on the car's ears. So if you can see this. This is from a little set of key rings I got. Wasn't very expensive. I think I got like 14 cars related ones. And I'm going to put this on the ears. You saw with the Little Mermaid ones I showed you right at the beginning. I put that right in the middle of the bow. That's what I was hoping for with this one. The bow's a little bit flatter than I thought it might be, but we're going to give it a go and see what happens. Again, whenever you're putting anything like this on, be careful of your fingers. Make sure you're giving it sufficient time to dry before you're doing anything else. That looks pretty good actually. So, there we go. Lightning McQueen ears, ready for my trip to Disneyland and Cars Land later this year. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that was useful. Just so you know, we have now been filming for about an hour, so it's not a complicated, onerous task to make these ears. They're easy to make. Let me know in the comments if you're going to give this a go, if you like the idea of it, if you think you can do it. If you've got any questions, just ask away. I will answer. Like I say, not an expert. I am not a professional crafter, creator, anything like that, but I do this for fun. I do it because I enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching. If you've liked the video, please give it a big thumbs up. Click that notification bell so you know when all our videos drop. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell all your friends if you think that they'll like it and if you think they are crafters. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.